This is Lost Luggage for the Atari 2600, published by Apollo in 1982. Lost Luggage is an action game where you play a luggage porter trying to catch suitcases that are getting thrown off a malfunctioning luggage carousel. You're going to be running back and forth and up and down and just trying to catch everything that moves, really. Depending on the difficulty you select, you can play with one or two of those little avatar guys on screen. If you play with two, they move at the same speed and they really function as one. It just gives you a little more surface area to catch things, even though it might look a little strange. There's also a game mode where someone can grab the second controller and use it to control the direction of the luggage as it's falling. That's actually kind of neat, and I wasn't expecting that to be in there. It adds a different level of difficulty, I think, especially if you're playing with your friends. There's also this other game mode in here where, by today's standards, is really just batshit crazy. Seriously, there's basically a terrorist mode where at random a black suitcase will appear. Well, it's got a bomb in it, and if you don't catch it, you lose the game outright. That's pretty nuts, right? I mean, you miss it and die? Certainly the 80s were a different time, and the reality of something like this was probably really, really low, but still, how grim. Ugh. At the bottom of the screen, you have 3 suitcases to start the game, and these represent your lives. I think that makes sense based on the subject matter. And of course, every piece of luggage that you miss, it will end a round, and you will lose one of these suitcases. Your suitcase lives. And then the game, of course, stops when you run out of them. Standard stuff, basically. The playing field, it has some reasonable details in it that you'd see in an Atari 2600 game. In the distance, you see planes landing, which is pretty cool. And when you miss a suitcase, it pops open and spills clothing everywhere. I find this part of the game kind of hilarious and appropriate, and clearly the programmers had fun with this part, because there is a ton of variety as to what spills out. They could have just made 1 or 2 things fall out to get their point across, but they went all out here. I see shoes, shirts, pants, a comb, underwear, and bras. And there's what seems to be one of those handheld meters from the Ghostbusters. Is that like an EKG meter? Is that what they called them? Something like that. And I swear there is something that looks like a guillotine. I'm talking Middle Ages France guillotine. I have no idea what this icon is supposed to be. If you see it, please let me know, because I have no clue. Overall, I have to say, I kind of like this game. I think like most Atari games, they tend to end up being 5 or 10 minute gameplay sessions before you get bored, laugh a little, and move on to the next cartridge. I think this one is a lot better than some, and maybe not as good as others. Your little guy, he actually moves really fast across the screen. At first, it's a little hard to control. One of the first things I thought when I started racing around here was that this actually reminded me of the game Kaboom from Activision. It felt really speedy like that, or maybe similar in speed. I know Kaboom can get completely nuts, but they do feel similar to me. But here we do get a little less volume of objects falling towards you, and you don't use the paddle controllers here when you play, you use the joystick. That's sort of one of the first things you might wonder when you try to play this game, whether or not you should be using the paddle controllers. It kind of feels like that might have been a little more appropriate to this gameplay. But you do get to move up and down a little bit, which is nice enough. Honestly, though, the up and down movement is kind of secondary to the left and right movement. It will help a little bit from time to time, but it's really the lateral movement where the bulk of the gameplay is. So, getting used to the handling a little bit, it might take some time, but it does work just fine. Things will get moving really fast before long, and you're going to be zipping around left and right pretty darn quick. Just scrambling to grab everything before it hits the floor, and everybody's clothes scatter across the airport. I'm happy to say that this game has some music to accompany it, or at least a little jingle when you start a level. Music wasn't a standard for a lot of 2600 games, so it's always great to hear something, even if it's anything. The other sounds in this game, although they're basic, they do seem to work pretty well. There's a drone you hear as a plane lands. Seems completely appropriate to a plane landing. And once the plane is down, the luggage is going to start to fly, and you're going to pick up items with little beeps here and there. I don't expect too much with sounds from these types of games, but, they do get by fine here, so no problems there. Well, that's all I have today for Lost Luggage from Apollo. Thanks for stopping by to take a look, and like and subscribe to the channel if this is your type of thing. Hope to catch you on another video.